An American tourist was arrested in Sao Paulo for sexual crimes against children and adolescents. According to police, he arrived in Rio de Janeiro with the intention of engaging in sex tourism. He was already well known to authorities. The American was reported by a ride-hailing app driver who became suspicious that the man was using rides to take victims to the place where he was staying. This man acts like a predator. She is 18 years old, and I have the ID to prove it. He traveled the world in search of victims, women and even children living in situations of abandonment and extreme poverty. This individual took advantage of what he believed was his financially superior condition, simply because he came from another country and believed he could get involved with these children. He told me that when he came to Brazil, he would call them. The American Floyd Wallace Jr., 30 years old, was arrested this week in Sao Paulo for sexual crimes. Police believe he intended to flee the country at the apartment where he was staying in the Liberdade neighborhood in downtown Sao Paulo. Police seized cell phones, a laptop, a watch with a hidden camera, and several stuffed animals. From what investigators found during the search and seizure, they already have an investigative direction focusing on his role as a producer of sexual content involving children. The investigation indicates that Rio de Janeiro was one of the destinations chosen by the American to practice sex tourism. The first case identified here in the city occurred on December 8th. He used different names to request rides through apps, but the passengers were the victims' children and adolescents who were taken to hotels and short-term rental properties. A ride-hailing driver became suspicious during a trip and alerted the platform. He went to Jaqueira, a community in the north zone of Rio, to pick up a passenger identified as Terry Williams. But at pickup, there were two girls. That raised suspicion on the part of the driver because the girls were talking about a Ferris wheel and ice cream. That gives you an idea of the victim's age. Domingo Espectacular had access to the warning message about the danger. When we arrived at the destination, the person was there waiting. I asked whether their mother was aware. I don't know if there's any crime here. You understand? Couldn't you send a message to this phone number to better understand what's going on? The driver who raised the alert prefers not to be identified. He said the American was waiting for the victims. It was 9 p.m., and they were going to meet someone whose language they didn't even speak. I asked them, "Is that the guy over there?" They looked back and then simply got out of the car and walked toward the individual. The driver decided to give up future rides in order to report the crime. That stayed in my mind, hammering away. Are those girls safe? Are they not safe? I only had one thing. 222 informed the platform that this ride left me in a very unsettling situation. In a statement, the platform said it contacted authorities. Based on the report, police identified other rides requested by the American. We were able to verify that, in addition to the pickup point always being the same. Location in the Jaqueira community. The destinations varied. We confirmed this. Individuals' ability to move around in order to avoid being found in another trip. One of the victims reportedly entered the car accompanied by her own mother. We saw videos of these encounters. It was a child of about 7 years old, with the mother present during the act. The images were shocking, truly inconceivable. On December 18th, the foreigner used the app again. For adolescents reportedly boarded the car in the north zone heading toward the port zone of Rio. In a video recorded last year, the American tries to communicate with a young woman in Bahia and manages to get her phone number. Everything is recorded by a friend of the tourist. He's much more confident than I am. I won't lie, he managed to do it. The American identifies himself as a passport bro, slang used by men from wealthy countries who travel specifically to meet women in poorer places. First of all, this is a stereotype about women from these countries, and without a doubt, countries with extreme social inequality, Latin America. For example, is the most unequal region in the world have this situation exploited by networks of sexual exploitation of children and adolescents, with more than 100,000 followers. He posted videos online giving tips for so-called sex tourism. One of these was recorded in the Dominican Republic. I always film them leaving, because if something happens to them, you don't want to be accused. You understand? It's always to prove that they left your property. That way you have an alibi if something happens in the United States. Floyd produced another type of content in which he challenges police authorities. Don't touch me. You're going to arrest me. He is an individual with prior records in 3 U.S. states, including assault on a police officer, robbery, and threats. In São Paulo, the American resisted arrest. He threatened to assault our officers and tried to shut the door. We acted and managed to restrain him. He said he would remain silent, which was respected. He did not provide any cooperation or assistance. The tourist has had his passport seized and is being held in preventive detention. Police are also investigating whether other people helped the American who does not speak Portuguese to recruit the victims. We will investigate how these negotiations were carried out in the cases we identified here in Rio de Janeiro. He may have recorded multiple videos, possibly even live-streamed them, but that will now be analysis of the devices we seized. A criminal defense lawyer explains that Floyd will be tried under Brazilian law. The fact that the accused or investigated person is a foreigner makes no difference in sentencing or penalty. Enhancement. If he remains in preventive detention in Brazil, he will be prosecuted here on Brazilian territory for these crimes. The American's defense could not be reached. In addition to rape of a vulnerable person and facilitating sexual exploitation, Floyd will face charges for storing and producing child pornography crimes that can result in sentences of up to 34 years in prison. Anyone who consumes, commits the act, produces, finances, or is involved in any way in this repugnant practice of pedophilia is part of this network. For the driver who reported Floyd, news of the arrest brought a sense of duty fulfilled, knowing that you, let's say, helped dismantle something that would probably have happened to other children. It's very comforting, to be honest.